For 2,000 years, the Calrith dominated the galaxy with overwhelming force. They called themselves the Alpha species, a name that became synonymous with absolute power across 100,000 star systems. Their war fleets numbered in the millions, their technology was feared as divine, and their philosophy was simple: only the strongest deserve to exist. Then they encountered humanity. A young species from a backwater world called Earth, barely 5 centuries into space travel, possessing no grand fleets, no planet-destroying weapons, no ancient warrior tradition. The Calrith dismissed them as prey, another primitive civilization to be crushed beneath their heel. Within 6 months, the Calrith Empire ceased to exist. Not conquered, not defeated, erased. Every fleet, every fortress world, every last trace of their 2 millennia reign gone. The galaxy stood in stunned silence, watching as humanity accomplished what thousands of species and countless rebellions never could. This is the story of how the Alpha species learned too late that humanity fights a different kind of war. The story opens with Commander Daniel Harris leading a small diplomatic vessel through the border regions of unexplored space. Humanity has been expanding steadily for 500 years, encountering dozens of alien species, trading peacefully, and building alliances. The human philosophy has been cautious exploration and mutual benefit. Harris's ship receives a distress signal from a mining colony on the edge of human space. When they arrive, they find the colony destroyed, the population dead or missing, and evidence of military-grade weapons fire. Dr. Martinez analyzes the destruction and determines it was methodical, efficient, and designed to send a message. Before they can investigate further, a Calrith war fleet emerges from faster-than-light travel. The ships are massive, ornate with symbols of conquest, bristling with weapons. Fleet Master Corvex broadcasts a simple message across all frequencies in flawless human language, clearly studied from the colonists they captured. The message explains that humanity has been evaluated and found inferior. The Calrith are the Alpha species, the apex predators of the galaxy. They have conquered 400 civilizations over 2,000 years. Humanity will submit completely, provide tribute, and accept Calrith authority over all human worlds, or they will be eliminated. The destroyed colony was merely a demonstration of Calrith power. Harris attempts negotiation, offering to open dialogue and find peaceful terms. Corvex responds with contempt. The Calrith do not negotiate with prey species. Humanity has one standard week to surrender their governments and submit to occupation, or the Calrith will begin systematic destruction of human colonies, one world at a time, until humanity learns its place in the galactic order. Harris transmits all data back to Earth and the human colonies. The message is clear: humanity faces an enemy unlike any they have encountered before. Not a rival, not a competitor, but a species that views all others as inherently inferior and worthy only of subjugation or death. On Earth, the Security Council convenes in emergency session. Senator Coleman presides over the debate. Some argue for immediate military mobilization. Others suggest strategic withdrawal and appeasement to buy time. Admiral Grant presents a third option, one that makes the room fall silent. She has been studying humanity's history, particularly wars against seemingly insurmountable enemies. She has a plan, but it requires a level of commitment and ruthlessness that peaceful humanity has not embraced for centuries. The Council votes to give her full operational authority. When humanity's deadline expires without surrender, the Calrith launch their assault. They follow their standard doctrine, proven successful against hundreds of species: overwhelming force against military targets, demonstrations of power against civilian populations, rapid conquest of key worlds. The initial attacks are devastating. Human defense fleets engage the Calrith with bravery but are outmatched technologically and numerically. 3 colony worlds fall in the first week. The Calrith forces are efficient, brutal, and utterly confident. They have fought this war thousands of times before. But Harris and Martinez, monitoring the battles from a hidden observation post, notice something crucial. The Calrith fight with absolute predictability. Their tactics never vary. Every battle follows the same pattern: massive show of force, direct confrontation, overwhelming firepower. They are fighting the war they have always fought, the war they have always won. Martinez completes her analysis of Calrith culture. They are not merely warriors. They are bound by a rigid philosophy of strength and honor. They believe their dominance is not just military but natural law. To change tactics would be to admit weakness. To fight indirectly would be to dishonor their ancestors. Their strength is absolute, but it is also their prison. Admiral Grant begins phase 1 of humanity's response. Human military forces do not engage in conventional battles. Instead, they evacuate civilians from threatened worlds, abandon military installations, and retreat in apparent disorder. The Calrith interpret this as cowardice and proof of human inferiority. Supreme Commander Thrakner sends reports back to the Calrith homeworld declaring the human conquest ahead of schedule. Humanity is broken, fleeing before superior Calrith might. The war will be over within a month. The galaxy watches and waits, expecting another species to fall before the Alpha. Only War Sage Velkara is concerned. She has been studying the pattern of human retreats and notices they are too organized, too strategic. The humans are giving up territory but preserving their forces. They are not fleeing in panic, they are repositioning. She tries to warn Thrakner, but he dismisses her concerns. The Calrith have won. The humans will surrender or be destroyed. It is inevitable. 2 months into the war, Admiral Grant launches Phase 2, but it is not a military counteroffensive. Instead, Captain Brooks and dozens of special operations teams infiltrate deep into Calrith territory using captured ships and false identities provided by the Talvari and other subjugated species who secretly aid humanity. Brooks's missions are not glorious. They do not attack Calrith military forces. Instead, they target infrastructure, supply lines, communication networks, industrial facilities. The operations are surgical, devastating, and designed to be attributed to internal sabotage or equipment failure rather than human action. Simultaneously, human intelligence operations spread carefully crafted information throughout the Calrith Empire. False reports of human superweapons, exaggerated accounts of human technological capabilities, manufactured evidence of traitors within Calrith ranks. The Calrith, who have never faced psychological warfare, begin to question their own forces. The Calrith military, trained only for direct combat, cannot adapt. They respond to sabotage with increased security, which strains their logistics. They respond to misinformation with purges of suspected traitors, which damages their command structure. Every Calrith response to human tactics makes the situation worse. Harris, watching from Earth, sees the Calrith Empire beginning to fracture. Subjugated species, inspired by human resistance, launch their own rebellions. Calrith forces, spread across hundreds of worlds to maintain their empire, find themselves fighting insurgencies on a dozen fronts. They are forced to recall fleets from human territory to suppress rebellions elsewhere. Velkara confronts Thrakner directly, presenting evidence that humanity is not simply resisting, but executing a coordinated strategy to destabilize the entire Calrith Empire. She argues that the Calrith must adapt their tactics, negotiate with humanity, or risk losing control of their conquered territories. Thrakner refuses. The Calrith do not negotiate. They do not adapt to prey. To do so would be to admit that humanity is their equal, which is philosophically impossible. Instead, he orders the complete mobilization of the Calrith war machine. Every fleet, every warrior, every resource will be directed at crushing humanity once and for all. The galaxy holds its breath as the largest military force ever assembled in known history begins moving toward human space. Thousands of warships, millions of Calrith warriors, centuries of accumulated military might. Ambassador Ixthel sends a private message to Harris, expressing sorrow for humanity's imminent destruction. Even those who admire human courage believe this is the end. The Calrith Grand Fleet arrives in human space to find the human military waiting, but not in the defensive positions expected. Human forces are spread across dozens of systems, apparently fragmented and vulnerable. Thrakner sees this as final proof of human incompetence. He divides his forces to pursue and destroy the scattered human fleets. Then the trap activates. The scattered human forces are bait. As Calrith fleets pursue, they find themselves drawn into systems that humans have spent months preparing. Not with weapons, but with something far more dangerous. Environmental hazards, navigational traps, and coordinated ambushes using the very predictability of Calrith tactics against them. Human forces do not engage in honorable combat. They strike from unexpected vectors, use automated weapon systems to multiply their effective numbers, and retreat before Calrith reinforcements can arrive. The Calrith, bound by their warrior code, cannot adapt to guerrilla tactics. They are fighting an enemy that refuses to fight on Calrith terms. Meanwhile, Captain Brooks executes the final phase of his mission. Deep within Calrith territory, human special forces simultaneously strike at critical infrastructure nodes across the Empire. Not military targets, but the civilian systems that support the Calrith war machine: power generation, food distribution, medical facilities. The Calrith homeworld and core territories descend into chaos. The subjugated species, seeing the Empire vulnerable for the first time in centuries, rise in coordinated rebellion. The Calrith military, the finest warriors in the galaxy, finds itself unable to defeat an enemy that will not stand and fight, while simultaneously losing control of their empire to internal collapse. Thrakner, witnessing the disintegration of everything the Calrith have built, makes a final desperate decision. He will lead the Grand Fleet in one massive assault on Earth itself. If humanity's homeworld falls, their resistance will collapse. It is a gamble, but it is the only tactic the Calrith understand. Admiral Grant receives the intelligence about Thrakner's decision and smiles for the first time in months. The Calrith are doing exactly what humanity predicted they would do, because the Calrith, for all their power, can only fight one kind of war, and humanity has already won a different one. The Calrith Grand Fleet arrives at Earth to find the planet heavily defended, but not in the conventional sense. No massive battle stations, no world-ending weapons, no grand fleets positioned for a final confrontation. Instead, Earth is surrounded by thousands of small, automated defensive platforms and a modest human fleet that immediately begins retreating. Thrakner orders the assault, and the Calrith fleet advances. But Earth's defenses are designed around one principle: delay and attrit. The automated platforms do not try to destroy Calrith ships. They merely slow them down, force them to expend ammunition and energy, and guide them into positions where Earth's defensive fleet can strike and retreat. Hours turn into days. The Calrith fleet, designed for decisive victories, finds itself bogged down in a grinding battle of attrition. And while Thrakner focuses on conquering Earth, the Calrith Empire completes its collapse. Every subjugated world rebels. Every ally abandons them. Every resource they relied upon disappears. Communications from the Calrith homeworld become desperate, then cease entirely. Thrakner realizes too late that he has led his entire military force into a trap, while humanity orchestrated the destruction of everything else. The Calrith fleet is intact, but the Calrith civilization no longer exists. Commander Harris broadcasts a message to the Calrith fleet on all frequencies. He offers them a choice: unconditional surrender and integration into the new galactic order as equals, or they can die defending the ruins of an empire that no longer exists. He gives them 1 hour to decide. Thrakner, facing the impossible reality that the Alpha species has been defeated not by superior force, but by an enemy that simply refused to fight the way the Calrith demanded, makes a final choice. He will not surrender. He will die as a Calrith warrior, facing his enemy directly. But his fleet, his officers, his warriors do not follow. They have seen their empire fall. They have watched humanity dismantle 2,000 years of Calrith dominance in 6 months. They lay down their arms. Thrakner dies alone in his flagship, the last believer in Calrith supremacy, as his civilization surrenders around him. The Alpha species, the conquerors of 400 civilizations, the greatest military power the galaxy has ever known, ceases to exist not in a final battle, but in simple, undeniable defeat. The story concludes weeks later with a meeting of the Galactic Council, an organization that exists but had been powerless under Calrith dominance. Commander Harris addresses representatives from hundreds of species, including Ambassador Ixthel, Elder Kresh, and former Calrith officers who now represent their species in a new capacity. Harris explains humanity's philosophy of warfare. Humans do not fight to prove their strength or honor. They fight to win, using whatever methods are most effective. They study their enemies, identify weaknesses, and exploit them without mercy. They do not believe in fair fights because survival is not a game with rules. But Harris also emphasizes humanity's commitment to peace and cooperation. The war with the Calrith was not about conquest or revenge. It was about survival and liberation. Humanity did not seek to rule the galaxy. They sought to end tyranny. The former Calrith are offered the same choice as every other species: cooperation, mutual benefit, and peaceful coexistence. Ambassador Ixthel asks the question the entire galaxy is thinking: what would happen if another species challenged humanity the way the Calrith did? Harris's response is simple and chilling. Humanity hopes it never happens, but if it does, they will do exactly what they did to the Calrith. They will fight to win. The story ends with Harris and Martinez standing in the observation deck of a space station, looking out at a galaxy fundamentally changed. The Calrith called themselves Alpha, the apex predators, the strongest species. They believed strength meant military power and warrior honor. But humanity proved that real strength is adaptability, creativity, and the willingness to do whatever is necessary to protect what matters. The Calrith fought the war they wanted to fight. Humanity fought the war they needed to win. And in the end, the galaxy learned that being called Alpha means nothing when you face a species that does not care about titles, only results. The Calrith were erased from existence not by being defeated in battle, but by being outthought, outmaneuvered, and rendered irrelevant by an enemy they never understood until it was far too late.